one of our favorite guests of all time, friend of the program, lightning reporter. She does it all for our Bolts, the one and only Gabby Shirley. Hello, my friend.
Hi, Jay. How's this camera situation? Should I be
Vince,
horizontal,
no, you're
vertical?
good. You're good.
All
No
right.
issues. You're on the laptop today, so you're good.
Well, no, I'm on my phone.
Oh, you're on your phone on the
It's
top. Okay, no,
propped
that's
up
good.
with the laptop. We're a mess.
You're good. Whatever, as long as you're comfortable, that's fine. Where are we at? Are we? You're in Montreal now, I presume.
Yes, in Montreal.
How's the weather?
Jay, I haven't gone outside, and I don't plan on going outside until I have to go to the game.
That is a that is a girl that's been in Florida for way too long. It's actually snowing in parts of Florida right now, so
Are
it's
you
pretty
messing with me?
wild. No, I am not. I haven't looked. Somebody just said it's snowing in Wesley Chapel, but yeah, it's freezing here today. We got some nasty freezing, not freezing rain, but it's not nice here. So this isn't your typical Tampa weather that you and I both moving from the northeastern side of the U.S. Like this is what we signed up for.
Yeah.
Feels like 47 right now. It's going to get down to, I guess, 42, 39 tomorrow. It's just going to be nasty the next 3 days. Did you guys leave last night or this morning?
Yes, we flew from Toronto last night. So obviously second half of a back-to-back, no morning skate. Not a whole lot going on. I think there was a team meeting. But yeah, that's why I'm not leaving the hotel until I have to.
Very, very smart. Before we get into the games, I posted something on social yesterday about us and how we cover Nikita Kucherov because he's such a unique athlete. And, I kind of spoke about it in the podcast yesterday. And again, not bad mouthing him, not saying he's just such a unique individual. Right. And we all know, like going into that post-game press conference, like how it is, right? Like we know he's not going to give like any of these long answers. That's why you asked about Andrei Vasilevsky, because we know he hates talking about himself. Like he's such a deferential superstar. He doesn't want it to be about him, but it is a unique experience, like covering him because we try to be respectful, knowing that he doesn't love it so much, right? But also like knowing that we have to do our job as well. The other night it was only 30 seconds, but I thought you handled it with all class and professionalism. But it is unique, right? Knowing that we're going into the locker room talking to a guy that really, and it's not personal. I don't take it personal, and I know you don't either. But it's just it's unlike any other athlete that I've ever covered.
Oh, gosh, Shay. This one has kept me up at night. This is my 4th season with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I would say it's the first season where I decided not to take it personally because previously I had. It's just hard not to when I feel like I'm around so much. Like it seems that your teammates trust me. You probably aren't like, I'm not high on his radar. He's not paying attention to everything I do. But perhaps if I did something bad, he would have heard about it. So for 3 seasons, Jay, it was very personal for me. I would get very upset. I would get very anxious. And I guess I was under the impression that if I worked really hard, tried really hard, did this right, did that right, he would come around. And I have learned now that I'm older and wiser that he is not coming around. It doesn't matter what you do. He's not coming around. I actually, Jay, and I guess I should say, and we're not doing this here, but being on the team side, like I usually just let it go because I respect him just being him, honest to God. But I don't want to talk about it too much because it just I feel it doesn't really come off too well. However, in Toronto, because it was just after he had reached his 600th NHL assist and that press conference happened, I had overheard Toronto media asking Nick Paul about Nikita Kucherov. And I heard Nick Paul say, which I was like, oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense. I heard Nick Paul say to the effect of, like, he's authentic, he's never going to change. And then Nick Paul said he only cares about his family and his team. And that's it. And right with that being said, Jay, hockey and winning. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, like I think that's what it is. He doesn't care about the media. He doesn't care how he's portrayed in the media. He sees no benefit, doesn't care if it's a negative effect on himself. And that just is what it is.
Yeah, it's funny too because the when I'm walking out the other night, who am I walking out with but Pointer? And he's like, "Some game, huh?" And I go, "Yeah." And I was like, "We just talked to Cooch for 30 seconds." He's like, "30 seconds," and I go, you know how." And we just laughed on the way out because it's just how he is. And I was at that point too with you. Like, I was, I try to do all the right things, and everybody else is, a lot of guys are more cordial, and it's just the way it goes. That's his personality. I love the consistency. I love that. That's him, right? He does it with everybody, and you kind of learn, and it's just us doing our jobs better too, and understanding like that's the way it's going to be. And maybe we craft our questions in a different way, right, to like get him to be a little bit more expansive. But if he doesn't, like, hey, we did our job, and you just kind of move on. It doesn't mean that we don't like him or he's a bad guy. Like, I thoroughly enjoy him. And when I got to talk to him at the All-Star game a couple years ago, he was he was like, he went on and on, and I was like, oh, this is great. I was like, we're gonna have to but then we go back to Tampa, and it was the same thing. And I was like, all right, Nikita, I appreciate it, buddy. Just keep going out there and doing your thing. All right, let's get to some of the action from last night. It's always interesting to see the Toronto Maple Leafs in action against the Lightning, because you can tell that some of those losses that Toronto had years ago against the Lightning, it's still in there. Like, they want to beat the Lightning every single time that they play. There's a mutual respect, for lack of a better term. But unfortunately, the Bolts came up a little bit short last night. But good to see a guy like Jonas Johansson, with Vasi getting the night off, really, giving it everything he had and giving the Bolts a chance to win.
Yeah, I thought Jonas Johansson played really well, Jay. I believe that the majority of people were shocked that he was in net. Perhaps the average hockey fan, you see a back-to-back and you pick which team you think is better, and you assign Andrei Vasilevsky to that team. John Cooper was asked about it and said that this was just the way the schedule went. And the Tampa Bay Lightning do have a schedule for their goaltenders prior to the start of the season.
Right.
But also, Jay, you may remember that Andrei Vasilevsky was pulled in Toronto the last time the Lightning faced them there. So, right, who actually knows if there was a really niche reason why Jonas Johansson started that game? It doesn't really matter. He played great. I just know it was a topic of discussion. But yes, he played really well. And I don't mean to simplify it so much. However, Jay, I think I can just point to the Tampa Bay Lightning not starting on time. We know they've had issues with their starts, not liking their first period. They get down. It's tough to pull themselves out of a hole, no matter if it's 1 goal, 2 goals, 3 goals. And that happened again last night.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of been the bugaboo for this squad a little bit this year. And kind of what you're saying about Vasilevsky, and we've seen this at times where the teams that are maybe a little bit lower on the points, the Cooper has gone in that direction of like, all right, this is kind of, I don't want to say the sure win, but he's played Vasi against the lesser team, because you feel like almost like you steal a game against Toronto with your backup goalie. And that it's whatever. It's the rhyme or reason. That's kind of what Cooper's been doing for many, many years. And then also you look at it, Toronto being ahead of them in the standings, maybe Montreal, you want to keep them a little bit lower in the standings to kind of secure your spot there in the Atlantic, and knowing the difficulties in the division. Why do you think the Lightning have had some difficulties so far this year in the division against these teams that they really know is, I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to it. And I don't know if necessarily it bothers me going forward, because I've seen years where the Lightning get swept by a team and then beat them in the postseason. Do you think it's more of a coincidence, or do you think there's any rhyme or reason to it?
Oh gosh, Jay, it's a really good question. And right, I guess for so prior to the Toronto game, they were 3-6 versus teams in the Atlantic. So now they're 3-7. So right, the games are stacking up. But for, I would say, the past 4 Atlantic Division matchups, it was, well, we haven't actually seen that many teams in our division.
Right.
But now again, they're seeing these teams and they just can't seem to get the win. I feel like it's just got to be coincidence. I don't know. It's strange. We know how tight this division is. John Cooper, this doesn't really answer your question too well, but John Cooper was asked about the Leafs and kind of just what sort of different team they are this year. Of course, it was after the loss, so Coop probably wasn't really into explaining, but he just said they have a new coach. Like, it's the same play. And I mean,
Yeah.
teams from year to year, they don't change all that much. So I don't know what it is. But I certainly know that the Lightning are aware of that record and would like to better it.
You got that right. And they take on the Montreal Canadiens tonight. Martin St. Louis behind the bench, so a familiar face there. What did you like from Max Crozier? And then unfortunately, we know that Eric Chernak and we know Julian's playing some of those cap gymnastics to make sure that you send Crozier down, bring him back up. You got to try to save as much money as possible for later on in the year. But what have you made of Max Crozier since he's been called up? I really like the kid, and I like the physical aspect that he brings. He's not afraid to lay some hits on some of these players.
No, Jay, he is not. Yes, I am a huge fan. I say that about most everyone in our Tampa Bay Lightning organization. These players are just class individuals. Max Crozier, so lovely. We saw him last season and he did pretty well. I meant, Jay, to go back and see the wording used when we first saw him last year. The word steady sticks out to me, and I'm not sure if that's because I did hear it previously or if it's just a good example of how he plays. But he comes in. It's hard to come in to the NHL, even if you've been here before, and just step into a role. He has been paired with Ryan McDonagh. Last year, when he was with the Lightning, he was primarily paired with Emil Lilleberg, who he played with in Syracuse. Obviously, Ryan McDonagh is back with this organization, so he's never played with him before. And I liked what I saw from him. As I said, great guy. I think he did really well considering he was just thrown in the mix. After his first game, I did ask him specifically about that pairing with McDonagh. He's a great interview, Jay. And Max told me, I don't think I have ever been paired with like a better, easier player to play with. Like Ryan McDonagh just made it so easy on me. I enjoy playing with him. I didn't get into would you learn from him in however many minutes you were on the ice together in one game, but he really enjoyed playing with him. Yes, Jay, he's physical. I believe he told Brian Engblom, probably in terms of what have you worked on? How have you evolved your game yourself? And he told Engblom that he had put on about 10 pounds, which I think adds to him wanting to be able to play that physical game. He is good at it. He does not shy away from anything. Jay, in his season debut with the Lightning, you may remember at the end there was a little bit of a questionable hit on Connor Geekie, slid into the boards, and Crozier went after the guy. And I found this out. I was kicking myself for not knowing it sooner, but Geekie, who also is new to this Lightning team and organization, and Crozier trained together in the offseason this past summer. So they're actually buddies prior to just playing with the Lightning for Crozier 2 games this season.
This is the kind of tidbits you're getting on the Recher podcast from our friend Gabby Shirley. She's all over it. I love the kid. I think the sky's the limit. He's unflappable. Like nothing seems to bother him. You just got to look around. He's able to get inserted into lineup with a multitude of partners and be able to perform at a high level. You mentioned Ryan McDonagh. I'm actually working on a story for TampaBayLightning.com on Ryan McDonagh. Yes, I'm efforting that. It's tough because I'm not a big time writer. But when it comes to a guy like Ryan McDonagh, what kind of impact that you seen from him when it comes to his ability to step up when the leadership role? Because obviously, you there? Oh, I think we lost you. Oh, there you are.
Jay, I lost you.
No, we're back. We're back. We're good. Got it? We're good?
Can't hear you.
3, 2, 1. Boom, boom, boom. Can we hear me now? Oh, no, it's the Montreal. That's what it is. Hold on. Let me do the remove and add to stage. Still no?
I had a phone call.
Oh, that's what it was. When the phone call goes down.
And then I lost your audio.
Oh, she'll get it back here in 3, 2, 1. Once the phone call, that's what happens sometimes on these phones. You get a phone call, it'll be in the background, and then Gabby will get us back. She'll get us back in 3, 2, 1. Is it back? No. Try it. No. Tried it. Here we go. She's working on it. Oh, off and on. Oh, off and on. Oh, she did the off and on. I like that. You got me back? Oh, man. She's trying. She's efforting. I really want to ask her about Ryan McDonagh. Maybe we could do this. Do the remove, add to stage, back. Hello. It's because there's a phone call in the background. And that's what happens sometimes when you do the StreamYard. Good. Oh, Oh, she left. Okay, we'll see if we can get Gabby Shirley back. That was funny. She tried. That's the advances in modern technology sometimes when you try to, you get these phone calls in the background, and what you do is like you kind of swipe away to like get them to go and be like, hey, I'll come right, I'll be right back or whatever. And then and then it's in the background. So like you ignore it, and then instead you're like, come back. I'm gonna text her, come back for one more. Come back for one question. She's so funny. She goes, I do not know what happened. I said, come back for one more. Let's see if we can get her back real quick. Unless she's got to go. But I really want to ask her about Ryan McDonagh real quick, just because I have the perils of live podcasting, SRQ Tom. You're right, Tom. You're all over it. We'll see if Gabby can get back in here because we really want to talk to her about the end of this. Yeah, there she is. Let's see if this works. All right, you got me?
This is a disaster. That was my husband. I'm going to yell at him.
It's okay. You can hear me now, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Jay. I just ignored the phone call. I don't know what happened.
No, what happens sometimes when you ignore the phone call and you put it in the background? Did you just swipe up on it or did you exit?
I X'd it.
Oh, okay. Sometimes when you swipe up on it and it stays in the background, it almost like occupies the audio.
Ugh.
So
I'm gonna have to start doing this on my computer. This is just silly.
That's okay. This is great. This is great. This is live podcasting. This is great. This is why we love it. I asked you about Ryan McDonagh before your husband so rudely interrupted us, but tell him that we love him.
Okay, continue.
But Ryan McDonagh, his impact of just maybe not so much on the ice, Gab, but like off the ice, and because you're with the team. And when I think of Ryan McDonagh, I think of family. I think about leadership, and just talk about his impact just on the overall vibe and community of the team.
Yes, Jay. And you know what? Not to say I can't answer your question, but I feel like in those terms, he is such a leader. And those are the things that I don't always see because I feel like they are in the background. He never shies away from the media, but I feel after a skate, when, it's a little bit more casual talking to the players, just because he's a veteran and perhaps he might be rushing home to the fam, he's out pretty quick. So I don't always see those interactions, but we know through talking to him just the type of person he is, what he brings. Yes, a big family man. In our latest episode of Recharge, we went with him and his wife and his 3 kids to Busch Gardens. That was really exciting and sweet to see. I will say, Jay, on like the team side, I knew before he left, and now that he's back, when there are questions sometimes on scheduling or meal preferences or this, that, and the other, he's a go-to because he has a pulse on the team. He knows what everyone wants, what everyone needs, and is just a responsible individual. So yeah, his impact, like, it can't be overstated.
He's an adult. Got some young players on the team. He's the adult. He's the dad.
I mean, at my age, I'm an adult too, Jay, but I don't know if I'm all that responsible sometimes.
Yeah, don't tell anybody that. Yeah, I try to not admit that I'm adult in real life, but it is what it is. How's the podcast going with our guy Ben Pierce, man? He's a fun dude, man. I'm glad that he's here in the Tampa Bay area, part of our Bolts contingent here.
Jay, he has been great. Jumped in seamlessly. I think our podcast is going well. I don't know if you have time to tune in. You should. I would love your feedback, number one.
Yes.
Number two, though, and I told my boss that without meaning to, perhaps I was just taking a little bit of the easy road, and I don't like doing that. Jay, we had been, and like I just would look on like the big cardboard printed calendar we get at the beginning of the year sitting at my desk and say, okay, we're recording Wednesday, the previous Wednesday. All right, so let's hit on this. This happened in this game. Okay, all right, we got our outline. And my boss said, like, wait, like we already know everything that happened. And for better or for worse, the people listening to the podcast are probably the dedicated Lightning fans. So they also already know what happened. Why don't we look ahead? And Jay, it just hadn't even dawned on me. and or it's also challenging for me because I am a big, who am I playing today? Who am I playing tomorrow? And that's all I'm looking at. So now looking at like a week in advance, we're trying to do that. It started last week, and we're going to do it again in our recording tomorrow. So if you have a chance to tune in, you'll have to let me know how we're doing, if we're giving you more things to look forward to rather than boring you with things that already happened.
You could never bore me. All right, I'll definitely tune in. And one thing that I do love about you, and this is kind of going back to what you were talking about before, is that you have done such a great job over the years of being so transparent and so honest about the education of your profession. And you and I have talked about this on air, off air, and I just want you, because you realize that, I think, or you're starting to realize it even more now, being with the team for what, 4 years now, the impact that you're having on the next generation, and especially the young females that are aspiring to be a broadcaster. How does that education process affect kind of your daily, I don't want to say life, but how you approach the job every single, especially on a day like today, where it's a little bit more of a laid back? How do you balance out the work and the life aspect of everything? Because you do want to relax, you do want to chill out a little bit. Maybe you want to enjoy a restaurant or a cup of tea or coffee at a certain city, but at the end of the day, there's got to be that work-life balance. So how have you learned over the last couple of years, I guess, the best ways to find that balance?
I think I'm still learning.
Mhm.
And I had a recent conversation on a point I'm about to bring up, Jay. But right, I guess for me, on a day like today, second half of a back-to-back, not many requirements as far as me being at a skate or having questions ready for the locker room. So it just kind of comes down to my checklist of what I need to have prepared for the game, how I can best prepare myself. Right. In that regard, of course, you can always cut corners. Usually that shows. And then you can also be an overachiever. And I would really like to be that person every day. Sometimes it's hard. But I bring up my boss again, the great Brian Briesman. I just had a meeting with him and I was talking about like that old saying, Jay, and I can't even actually say it right, but like, don't fix what's not broken. But I feel maybe by default, I've kind of been following that, and that's not good because that's not how you grow. So what I'm doing now, it works, and I think I'm doing a good job, but I would like to try new things and push myself here. And instead of doing it this way, let's be brave and do it this way. So on days like today, when it's a little bit slower, I do look like a mess because I just went to the gym. But I try to keep that in mind. Obviously, hitting everything on my checklist and then trying to do something more.
That's great. I mean, that's the most important thing, is making sure you have that balance, but making sure that you never get to a point where that you're complacent and you're trying
Right.
to push yourself to be the best version of yourself every day, whether it's personally or professionally. So you're doing a great job, Gab, and you're making us all happy and proud of you. And I love your jackets. I mean, they're the only things that rival my shoes in the Tampa Bay media, if I could say so myself. You got to see, I got a special pair of shoes coming out next week when you guys come back, something with some LED lights on the bottom. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'll be looking.
I've only worn them one other time, and the last time I wore them, the only time I wore them, when I saw John Cooper, he literally got down on his hands and knees and pointed at my shoes so that his wife could take a picture to send it to their kids. So those kind of shoes, they're coming out in the next week or so. But yeah, check out Gabby Shirley on all social media platforms. Gabby_Shirley_. She does a little bit of everything. Let everybody know when they can hear the podcast and when they can see you, because you're on FanDuel. You're everywhere.
Podcast, we usually record Wednesdays, Jay, and then it drops on Thursday morning. Yes.
Nice.
And you can find it all over our Lightning social channels.
Yeah, TampaBayLightning.com is all the information on there. Gab, I appreciate your time. You are the greatest. Go call your husband back. Tell him that we said hello. Have a wonderful time at the game tonight, and safe travels back across the border. And I'll see you next week, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Let's do this again.